It is time for another edition of Boxing Scene's Top Stories here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George DeMatteis, and it seems there's a new rivalry brewing in boxing between a fighter and a promoter, if you will. Turki Alalshikh has had some strong words for Canelo Alvarez ahead of his September 14th fight against Edgar Berlanga. Here's what Turki Alalshikh had to say about Canelo. Quote, I heard what Canelo said that he respects me, but doesn't like the way we do business. As for him respecting me, it doesn't matter to me if he does or not. As for the way I do business, I know why he doesn't like it, because I only target big fights at fair prices. So of course, anyone who likes easy fights won't like that. And I know how he feels after losing to Bivol, so he's been looking for easier fights since then. Also, I'm not the one who's afraid of fighting Benavidez or Crawford. Therefore, I knew he was wasting our time and making excuses with big amounts of money that can't be paid. So I'm continuing my way to make big fights that serve the boxing world, and he's on his way to making easy, show-only fights. Here's what Canelo said in response.
I don't really care about it. Look, I'm focused 100% on my fight, and I don't really care about it. They called me yesterday. They text me yesterday if it's possible to talk about the craft for February or meet yesterday here in Los Angeles with him. And I said, look, I'm 100% focused on this fight, and I can talk about other fights. Maybe that's why he talked about that today, because I say I'm not ready to talk about other fights. And I don't really ask him for anything. I'm good.
Now, this was what on Turki Alalshikh's Instagram post. It says the face of boxing, most influential figure in boxing and MMA. We add the MMA in there because at the same night as the Canelo fight against Edgar Berlanga, Turki Alalshikh is the promoting sponsor of the USC event in the Sphere in Las Vegas, essentially going head-to-head against Canelo on the 14th of September. All right, we need the champs here to talk about this. We got Paulie Malignaggi and Chris Algieri. All right, Paulie, what do you make of this back and forth between Turki Alalshikh and Canelo Alvarez?
You know what? It's interesting. Canelo certainly doesn't need the Turki Alalshikh money. I do think that Canelo in recent years, Turki Alalshikh is right about Canelo in recent years. He hasn't wanted to test himself. He hasn't wanted to really go for it, go for the gusto and take on the very clear top contenders to his titles. Yet he doesn't want to vacate titles. He expects people to shell out money for him to basically make these show fights, like Turki Alalshikh said. It's basically a retirement tour, only he wants to keep the belts hostage, and the sanctioning bodies don't play by the rules. They let him keep the titles. So, you know, and Turki Alalshikh, I actually think Canelo has a good chance of winning the Crawford fight, because I just didn't feel like Crawford could hold off a guy who's much bigger, despite being more skilled at this point, and weight classes exist for a reason. But, you know, Turki Alalshikh's been looking to make constantly great fights, and we've seen that. And we've seen fights and shows and cards that he's put on where there's, like I said before, 2 or 3 upsets each and every time. And Canelo doesn't want to be part of that upset plan. You know, he's looking to make these fights where, listen, and that's not a knock on Berlanga, but Berlanga has not won at a high enough level to show, and he struggled at a pretty, you know, borderline world-class level. He struggled already there. So there's a lot of question marks, and that's why Canelo's fighting these kind of guys. They are basically show fights, and Canelo yet still, in a tough crisis economy, still expects people to shell out money for these exhibitions, basically. So Turki Alalshikh's like, all right, bro, if people are going to pay to watch you fight, then give them a fight that they can go into with some excitement and not just to watch you perform. Because essentially, this is just like watching a performance when Canelo fights opponents that don't really have a hope going into the fight. We've seen the body of work Turki Alalshikh has had, and we've seen the body of work Canelo has had recently. I think it's very clear.
All right, Chris, what do you make of this back and forth between Turki Alalshikh and Canelo Alvarez?
I mean, I like it. It's entertaining. So regardless of who's right or who's wrong, in certain ways, they're both correct. But it's, you know, it's something for us to tune into every day. It's like this drama saga back and forth between the new face of boxing, Turki Alalshikh, who's coming in and putting together these great shows and these great fights, making these matchups, shelling out tons of money and getting fighters pay raised, and then Canelo Alvarez, who is the face of boxing as a competitor, and who, you know, as of recent years, like you said, champ, hasn't been taking on the #1 contenders. Still holding on to those belts, picking and choosing who he wants to fight. But listen, Canelo had the answer he made two really good points. Number one, I'm not talking about next fights. I'm 100% focused on the fight in front of me. I have a fight date. It's set. There's not that much time before that fight. They just launched out. They just did their media week this week in New York and a couple other places coming up. So the fight came together kind of last minute, quote unquote, in terms of how big fights get made. So he said he's 100% focused on that. I mean, I would say the same thing at that point. Yeah, we'll talk about that after the fight because, again, we've talked about this on our air before. Putting the cart before the horse in championship-level boxing, not a great idea. Anything can happen. That's why we fight the fights. But then also him saying, like, I don't need to. And that's to your point, Champ. It's like he doesn't need to. He can take and choose to pick these fights. He's still making his $30-35 million fights. Yeah, he can.
He can, but the title belts are locked.
But again, it's because he can. The governing bodies are allowing him to maintain these belts and he is able to pick these fights. And he's able to do that. He is Canelo Alvarez. You mentioned him doing like a quasi-retirement tour. If he were to relinquish all the belts and then decide, I'm going to fight in Vegas this time, I'm going to go to Japan at the end of the year, I'm going to go to England in May next year, I'm going to go and do that and fight whoever he wanted to, I'd be 100% okay with that. You earned it at this point. If you don't want to fight the number one contenders, cool, release the belts. You want to keep fighting and putting on shows and have people go to Canelo fight weeks? I've been to a bunch of Canelo fight weeks. I love them. They're fun. Take a world tour, bring that show other places, that's great. But in terms of holding on to the belts, that's where the issue really comes in. So again, both guys have made good points. But regardless, I'm over here eating popcorn watching it, and I think it's enjoyable.
If I'm Turki Alalshikh, I would forget the Crawford fight for Canelo. I think Crawford's a bit small. Keep Crawford at 154 where there's a ton of terrific matchups to be made. And you tell Canelo, listen, buddy, you either fight Benavidez or you've been ducking for 2-3 years, or we don't work together. That's it. End of story, because those belts got to be unlocked. As soon as you unlock the 168-pound division, that's going to be a fun weight class. This guy's holding it hostage with those belts and refusing to fight the toughest of opposition.
Is it, though? I don't know if I agree. I think 68 is starting to clear out.
Nah, they'll come back. It's starting to clear out because they got nobody.
That easy to do.
The guy won't unlock the belts. Morel clearly isn't a 175-pounder. He struggled against Hot the other night. Benavidez has said he can make 168. You know, the reason these guys are moving up to 75 is because nobody forces these fights. Saying
you can and then doing it once you've moved up is not easy. And also being the same guy. You know, time is passing. These guys are getting older. Making that weight's not going to be easy for either one. They're both big.
Champ, don't make more excuses for Canelo. He's been ducked in the top
opposition
for years.
It's not an excuse for Canelo. I'm talking about how good 175 is.
Yeah, it is.
If you're saying 68 is a good weight, no, 75 is the good weight class. Because now we got Beterbiev, we got Bivol, we got Morel, we got Benavidez. You know, that's turning into a fantastic weight class. Some of the deepest in the sport.
If Turki Alalshikh makes Benavidez Canelo, those guys will make 168.
And I think that's the fight we all want to see, Benavidez versus Canelo at 168. All right, champs, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you here on Top Stories. Don't forget, scan the QR code, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on all our social media platforms. This is Boxing Scene's Top Stories, only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, August 21st. Former Unified World Champion Swift Jarrett Hurd takes on former Unified World Champion Jason Banana Rosario. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at ProBoxTV.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.